Night at the Broken Stein. I've always been drawn to bars with character, so when I found the Broken Stein, a crumbling tavern off a rural route, I didn't think twice. It was a foggy Tuesday, my truck idling in the mist, and I craved a beer to shake off a rough day. The sign flickered, cold brews, and I figured I'd nurse one, soak in the vibe and roll out. I didn't expect the bar to swallow me, or that I'd still feel its grip. I stepped in at 9 p.m., boots crunching broken glass, the air dank with yeast and rust. The place was sparse, wood beams sagging, stools uneven. A half-dozen patrons hunched over mugs, faces shadowed. The bartender, a stocky woman with a lazy eye, grunted Clara and slid me a foamy pint. Free, she said. First-timer's perk. I sipped sharp, earthy, and settled at the bar, the quiet heavy, broken only by a faint drip somewhere deep. By 10, the patrons hadn't stirred. Still, silent, heads bowed, and a hum started low from the floorboards like pipes groaning. I cracked, cozy spot. But Clara just stared, her good eye glinting, and poured another. Unasked, foam blackish now. The hum thickened, a whisper weaving in. Drink deep. I blinked. Bar tricks, I thought, and took a swig, the glass icy, bitter stinging my throat. The patrons twitched, fingers curling, nails tapping their mugs in sync. At 11, the lights buzzed, dimming slow, and the drip turned sharp. Plink plink. From the back wall, a dark stain spreading. I checked my phone. No bars, screen stuck on 10:33, and the whisper rasped, drink deep. Not from the hum, behind my stool. I spun. Empty, just the patrons, heads lifting now, eyes milky, unseeing. Clara muttered, fog's thick, stay a spell. Her rag sopping red as she wiped, streaking the bar. I stood, legs wobbly, and the door rattled, locked, deadbolt rusted shut. The static flared, stay down. Harsh, my voice twisted, and the patrons turned. Slow, mouths gaping, dripping wet. I grabbed my keys. Clara, open this. But she backed off, rag falling, blood pooling at her feet. The lights flickered, and footsteps sloshed, heavy, deliberate. From the back, behind a tarp nailed up, flapping loose. I bolted for the restroom, exit maybe, and the hall warped, walls bending, bulbs sparking out. The whisper chased, drink deep, and the footsteps grew, sloshing, close, something dragging, wet and long. I hit the john, mirror shattered, sink clogged, and my reflection showed them. Milky-eyed, crowding me, dripping. The door slammed, knob freezing, and the static hissed, stay down. My face mouthing it, unasked. I kicked the window, grimy, small, glass cracking, and the patrons pressed in, cold fingers brushing my arms, tugging. The bar groaned, beams creaking, floor buckling, and Clara's voice echoed, you drank it. I climbed, glass slicing my hands, and dropped to the lot, fog choking me, lungs burning. The stein loomed, patrons at the windows, staring, Clara in the doorway, rag bleeding, and I ran, keys slipping, truck roaring to life. I hit a motel, shaking, washed the cuts, and crashed, the hum fading. Next day, I drove back. Lot bare. No bar, just a ditch, water pooling red. A farmer nearby shrugged. Stein? Flood took it decades back. You're dreaming. I nodded, blank, checked my phone. Photos. Me at the bar, them behind, eyes milky. I deleted them, stayed at a friend's, swore off taverns. But last night, his tap dripped, plink plink, and the hum started, drink deep. My reflection in his mug showed them. Gaping, wet, closer, and my keys were on the sink, streaked red, though I'd locked them away. The hum's louder, a throb in the walls, and footsteps slosh upstairs, slow, dragging. My phone buzzes, stay down, from Clara. With shots, me sleeping, me driving, me typing this. The lights dim, and I hear her pour, calling me back to the bar that's drowned. where they wait to fill me deep. The night at the last call. I've always found comfort in bars, the clink of glasses, the murmur of voices, a refuge from the grind. So last Saturday, when work left me frayed, I hit the last call, a dive tucked in an alley downtown. Its sign flickered, open late, and I craved a whiskey to burn off the day. I figured I'd stay till closing, stumble home, and sleep it off. I didn't expect the bar to hold me, or that I'd never walk out alone. I slipped in at 10 p.m., the place a cave. Low ceiling, scarred tables, air heavy with smoke and regret. A dozen patrons dotted the room, hunched, silent, and the bartender, a wiry guy with a limp, nodded me to the bar. "Ed," he grunted, pouring a shot, amber glinting under dim bulbs. I downed it, warmth spreading, and settled in, the jukebox crooning a warped blues tune, needle skipping faint. By 11, the crowd thinned, 3 left, shadows in the booths, and the tune slowed, a hum seeping through, low, like a heartbeat. I ordered another, and Ed slid it over, eyes flicking to the door, locked. I noticed chain looped tight. "Storm coming," he muttered, though the night was clear. The hum grew, a whisper curling out, "Last one." I laughed, "Good pour, Ed." But he didn't smile, just polished a glass, knuckles white. At midnight, the lights buzzed, dimming sharp, and the jukebox cut. Static crackling loud, a voice breaking through. "Last one." My glass trembled, whiskey rippling, and I checked my phone. No signal, clock frozen at 11:59. The patrons turned, slow, heads tilting, faces blank, eyes too wide, glinting wet. Ed whispered, "Should have left," and the static roared, "Stay for it." Not from the box, behind me in the bar's bones. I stood, legs shaky, and the door rattled. Locked tighter, chain taut. The patrons rose, stiff, synced, steps dragging, hands dangling, dripping something dark. I grabbed my coat. "Ed, open this." But he backed off, glass shattering in his grip, blood streaking the counter. The static screamed, "Last one." My voice warped, pleading, and the lights flickered, shadows bending, too long, too thin. I ran to the back. Restroom sign, a chance, and the hall stretched, bulbs popping, dark chasing me. The whisper hissed, "Stay for it." And footsteps followed, wet, slapping, too fast. I hit the john, mirror cracked, sink rusted, and my reflection showed them. Blank faces, crowding behind, dripping. The door slammed shut, knob burning hot, and the static chanted, "Last one." My lips moving on screen, unasked. I kicked the window, small, high, glass cracking, and the patrons pressed in, cold hands brushing my legs, pulling. My flashlight app died, and the bar groaned. Walls buckling, floor tilting, Ed's voice echoing, "You're the last." I climbed, glass biting my palms, and tumbled into the alley. Asphalt cold, air sharp. The bar loomed, windows black, chain rattling, and I ran, lungs burning, to my car, keys slipping, engine roaring alive. I hit my place, locked up, downed water to steady my shakes, and crashed, the hum fading. Next day, I walked back. Alley empty. No bar, just a brick wall, graffiti faded. A bodega guy nearby shrugged. "Last call? Closed years ago, man. Fire took it." I nodded, hollow, checked my phone. Text from Ed, "Stay for it." With photos, me at the bar, them behind, eyes glinting. I deleted them, crashed at a friend's, swore off nights out. But last night, his TV buzzed, static, loud, and the whisper came, "Last one." My reflection in the glass showed them, wide-eyed, dripping closer, and my keys were on the floor, streaked black, though I'd locked them up. The hum's back, a pulse in the walls, and footsteps dragged downstairs, slow, wet. My phone buzzes, "You're the last," with shots, me sleeping, me driving, me typing this. The lights dim, and I hear Ed pour, calling me back to the bar that's gone, where they wait for the last one to stay. The night at the Hollow Keg. I've never been picky about bars, so when I stumbled on the Hollow Keg last month, a weathered shack off a back road, I didn't hesitate. It was a Thursday, rain drumming the roof of my beat-up coupe, and I needed a drink after a long week. The neon sign buzzed open, flickering like a dying pulse, and I figured I'd have one, maybe two, and head home. I didn't expect the bar to claim me, or that I'd still hear it calling. I parked in the gravel lot, empty, save a rusted pickup, and ducked inside, shaking off the wet. The place was dim, wood-paneled, stools wobbly, air thick with stale beer and mildew. A handful of patrons slumped over tables, silent, heads down, and the bartender, a gaunt woman with stringy hair, nodded me to a stool. "Name's Ruth," she rasped, sliding me a cloudy pint. I sipped, bitter, warm, and settled in, the rain a dull roar outside. By 10 p.m., the crowd hadn't moved. 5, maybe 6, shadows in the gloom, and the jukebox hummed. No music, just a drone, low and steady. I cracked a joke, lively bunch. But Ruth didn't smile, just wiped the counter, her rags smearing black. The drone sharpened, a whisper threading through. "Keep drinking." I blinked, bar noise I thought, and took another gulp, the glass colder now, rim slick. The patrons stirred, heads lifting slow, eyes glinting like wet stones. At 11, the lights flickered, bulbs buzzing, and the drone turned to static, crackling, alive, from the walls. I checked my phone. No bars, time stuck at 10:47, and the whisper came again, "Keep drinking," not from the jukebox behind me. I spun, nothing, just the patrons still staring now, faces too pale, too slack. Ruth poured another, unasked, and muttered, "Storm's bad. Stay put." Her eyes darted to the door. Locked, I noticed, bolts slid shut. I stood, uneasy, and the static roared, "Sit down!" Sharp, my voice but not mine. The patrons turned. Slow, synced, mouths opening. No sound, just that hum, pulsing in my skull. I grabbed my keys, headed for the door. Stuck, knob rattling uselessly, and Ruth whispered, "Can't leave yet." The lights dimmed, shadows stretching, and footsteps shuffled soft, wet, from the back room, a curtained-off slab of black. I banged the door. "Let me out!" And the static screamed, "Keep drinking!" The patrons stood, jerky, like puppets, closing in, hands limp, dripping rain though they hadn't moved. My flashlight app flickered, catching Ruth. Still, but her rag bled red, pooling on the counter. The curtain twitched, and the footsteps grew, sloshing heavy, and a voice rasped, "You came in," low, wet, from beyond it. I swung my keys, air, nothing, and the door clicked, bolt sliding free. I bolted to my car, rain lashing, engine sputtering alive. The keg loomed in the mirror. Patrons at the windows, staring, Ruth in the doorway, rag dripping, and I floored it, gravel spitting, the hum fading. I hit my apartment, locked up, showered off the stink, and crashed, the rain a dull echo in my dreams. Next day, I drove back, curiosity, stupidity, and found a field. Empty, no bar, just mud and tire tracks, mine alone. A diner nearby laughed off my questions. "Hollow Keg? Burned down in 98, kid. You're seeing ghosts." I nodded, numb, checked my phone. Photos. Me at the bar, patrons behind, eyes glinting, Ruth's rag red. I deleted them, stayed at a friend's, swore off roadhouses. But last night, his sink dripped, slow, wet, and the hum started, "Keep drinking." My reflection in his glass showed them. Slack, pale, crowding me, and my keys were on the counter, muddy, though I'd left them locked up. The drone's louder, a buzz in the walls, and footsteps slosh downstairs. Soft, too close. My phone buzzes. Texts from Ruth. "You came in," with shots, me sleeping. me driving, me typing this. The lights flicker, and I hear her pour, calling me back to the bar that isn't there, where they wait to keep me drinking. The night at the Rusty Tap. I've always liked dive bars, the grime, the cheap beer, the hum of strangers drowning their days. So when my buddy Jake bailed on drinks last Friday, I hit the Rusty Tap solo, a hole in the wall off the highway, neon sign buzzing half dead. I figured I'd have a couple, unwind, and call it a night. I didn't expect the bar to lock me in, or that I'd leave with something trailing me. It was 9 p.m., the place half full, truckers, locals, a jukebox wheezing old country. I grabbed a stool, ordered a draft from the bartender. A grizzled guy, Hank, with a scar splitting his brow, and sipped, the foam bitter, the air thick with smoke and sweat. The crowd thinned by 10, just me, a drunk muttering in the corner, and a woman at the far end, pale still, staring at her untouched whiskey. Hank wiped the counter, avoiding her, and I felt her eyes flick to me, cold, unblinking. At 11, the jukebox cut mid-song, static crackling, and the lights dimmed. A flicker, then steady, but darker. Hank cursed, smacked the box, nothing, and the static grew, a low hum threading the room. I laughed, Tex haunted. But he didn't smile, just poured me another, hands shaky. The woman's glass clinked. She hadn't moved, and a whisper slipped through the hum, "Stay late." Not her voice, not anyone's, from the air itself. I shrugged it off, bar vibes, too much beer, and hit the John, a dank closet with a flickering bulb. The mirror showed me, tired, buzzed, but the stall behind reflected wrong. Empty, then not, a shadow swaying, too tall. I spun, nothing, and the bulb popped, dark swallowing me. The hum roared, "Stay late," and the door jammed, knob slick, unturning. I kicked it, wood splintered, and stumbled out, heart thudding, to find the bar quieter, the drunk gone, the woman still staring. Hank was behind the counter, polishing a glass, but his eyes darted nervous, not meeting mine. I muttered, "Bathroom's busted," and he nodded, too fast. The clock said 11:30, but my phone read 1 a.m. No signal, battery draining. The hum turned to static, loud now, and the jukebox spun. No record, just the needle scratching air, spitting, "Stay late." I grabbed my jacket, tossed cash. Hank didn't touch it, and headed for the door. Locked, deadbolt stuck, glass fogged like breath. I banged, "Hank, open this." He froze, glass slipping, shattering, and the woman stood, slow, her chair scraping. She didn't walk. Glided, dress trailing, face too smooth, eyes black pits. The static screamed, "You're here?" Her lips unmoving, and Hank whispered, "Shouldn't have stayed." The lights died, black, sudden, and footsteps shuffled. Too many, circling me. My flashlight app flickered, catching her inches away, head tilting too far, smiling. I swung my keys, air, nothing, and the bar shifted, walls groaning, bottles rattling off shelves. The door clicked, unlocked now, and I bolted, boots slipping on wet asphalt, rain lashing down. My car started, thank God, and I peeled out, the Rusty Tap shrinking in the mirror, her shape in the doorway, still. I hit my apartment, locked up, downed whiskey to steady my hands, and crashed, the hum fading from my skull. Next day, I drove back, daylight courage, to find the lot empty, the bar gone. Just a burned-out shell, weeds choking the frame. A gas station clerk nearby laughed. "Rusty Tap? Torched years ago, man. You drunk?" I didn't answer, checked my phone. Photos. Me at the bar, her behind me, eyes black. I deleted them, moved to a friend's couch, swore off dives. But last night, his radio buzzed, static, loud, and the whisper came, "Stay late." My reflection in his window showed her. Smooth, smiling, closer, and my keys were on the table, wet, though I'd left them in my coat. The hum's back, a pulse in the walls, and footsteps shuffle downstairs. Slow, Too many. My phone buzzes. Texts from Hank. You're here. With shots, me sleeping, me driving, me typing this. The lights flicker, and I hear her glide, calling me to stay late where she waits to pour me one more.